Hello, and welcome to this Christian Walk podcast, the show where no topic is too taboo to empower you on your walk with God. I'm your host, Marley B., and it is my privilege to welcome you back to season 4. And today's conversation is a shout out to the men. The fellas are in the building, and we are having a conversation that talks about the most important pastime a person can engage in, and that time is prayer, specifically the prayers of men and the power that can happen when men tap into their God-given relationship and engage in prayer on a daily basis. It was a great conversation. So let's get into it right now.
Walk with me, talk with me. What you know about God? Will He ride with me? Come and open my eyes for me. Hear my story. Show me more what's in store. And once more, listen, homie, can you walk?
All right, Daniel and Ron, welcome to this Christian Walk podcast.
What's up?
How you doing? Good.
Doing great. So glad to have you guys with me. I'm rocking with the fellas today, and I like it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Before we go into our topic for today, I definitely want to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the viewers, right? Let's start with you, Daniel.
Well, thank you, Miss Marley, for having me today. For those that do not know me, my name is Daniel Rhodes. I'm 30 years old, single. I'm a minister at New Beginnings Community Church, teacher, football coach, sound engineer, anything that dealing with work, I can do it pretty much. But I did attend college. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in mass communication. And pretty much, I'm just a young man that's trying to make a difference in the world right now.
Amen. Thank you
Wow,
so much,
good
Daniel,
stuff.
for being here. I know that's a tough act to follow, Rondine, but you
I
got
know,
this.
I know, I know, I know.
Okay, tell us a little bit about yourself, Ryan.
Well, my name is Ron Dean, of course, and I am married with two beautiful daughters and a beautiful wife. I attend New Beginnings Community Church. Um, I work for Xerox Corporation. I've been working with them for 27 years now. I am a data. I guess they call me a data columnist engineer now. Um, I went to school to Brooklyn Conservatory of Music. I've been a musician for 100 million years. I've been a sound engineer for 100 million years. I've done it all. I guess you can tell in the background. This is what I do. I love the Lord. I'm happy to do what God has called me to do. I am a minister in another Reformation, and that's all. That's all I can say right now about this old man here.
Hey man, well, I don't know about don't even start that. Don't even start that. Don't even start that. We're gonna use seasoned. We're gonna
Okay, all right. I'll take that.
we're gonna do seasoned. That's how we're gonna do that, right? That's all that salt and pepper. That's
Oh yeah,
seasoning.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
seasoning.
yeah. That's all it is.
Well, guys,
It's seasoned salt. That's what it is.
well, we'll take all that. You in the right place for it. We need a little seasoning, right? Especially for this topic, right? And I just want to kind of give a little bit of background how this topic, to me, why I wanted to have it. Lately, I don't know if you guys have really been noticing, like in our church. I'm not sure if it's happening in all churches, but definitely in our church, right? We all go to New Beginnings in Charlotte, North Carolina, right? And I've noticed the last, I say like 6 to 8 months, while we've been, first of all, attendance, everybody knows attendance has suffered and during COVID. But as we've been getting people, joining the church, I've been noticing this trend of young men joining the church. Have you guys like noticed that we've been getting like this trend of young men just joining the church, and it's just been amazing. Like, even if we don't get but one person, it's usually a young man. And that's really been kind of standing out to me. And I'm just like, wow, how significant that is, right? When you think about, it feels like God is doing something really special in this season where he is speaking to the men of this nation. and he's trying to, mobilize them and get them back. And I'm all for it because it seems like such an important thing. While it's important for all of us to have a prayer life and all of us to have a relationship with God, it's something very significant about when a man has the relationship with God, because men are called to be the head. That's just the order of things, the way God did it. And a lot of our men are not really into praying like that. We all know people that say, I pray for you, and it probably never really happened. But you know what I mean? But when you think about the significance of having a prayer life, you know what I'm saying? And I thought you guys would be perfect to have this conversation about the importance of having a prayer life, especially as a man. And I wanted you to represent the seasoned generational man, Ron Dean, and I want Daniel for you to represent the millennials, because you guys get a bad rep, first of all, you know what I'm saying, for not liking the church. You know what I mean? And so I'm just wondering, first off, how you feel about that as far as the importance, just in general, of men having a prayer life. Let's start with you, Daniel.
Ooh-wee. First up. For me, the importance of having a prayer life, honestly, it took me a minute to actually get into the habit of praying. For most people, especially probably my age, dealing with millennials, we've been living off the prayers of our grandmothers, our grandparents, our parents, all that great stuff. So we've been covered because we had people to actually pray for us. But for me, my prayer life actually started when my life started to actually change. I went into this funny patch of losing friends, changing relationships, and I was really trying to find out what God was trying to get to me in that season. He was adding things to me, he was taking things away from me, and I really didn't understand what God was trying to do. So I had to take it upon myself to get down on my knees and man up and ask God, like, bro, what you got going on right now? Because like I really don't know.
Right.
And then I'm one of those people, like I really I need to know step by step what's going on, so that way I could be in tune to make the best move or make the best decision that comes with it. So my prayer life really started to grow and to take off. And it actually started around the time that my grandmother actually had her first stroke. Um, and so she was actually in the hospital the very first time. She was in the hospital for about 3 days. And in those 3 days, she could not talk. All right. And so, I'm praying for my grandmother, I'm praying for my grandmother, praying for my grandmother. And on the third day, she opened up her mouth. And the first name she called out was my little cousin, Jonathan. Now, it's me, my mom, my little brother, and Jonathan all in the room, right? And now we know my grandma can't speak. The next thing we know, we just hear my grandma just yell out, Jonathan. We look up, we look around, like, who's she talking to?
Right.
We haven't heard her speak in 3 days.
Right.
And for me, that was kind of a little, not necessarily scary, but like a worrisome situation for me. Because again, I enjoyed speaking with my grandmother. So not being able to hear her voice and hear her wisdom, for me, that was kind of tough for me, because a lot of the things that she poured into me, it actually helped propel me through school, through life, and all those things like that. And so after I saw that, in those 3 days that God actually spoke to us and revealed himself to us in front of, saying just our family, I'm like, yo, this is, this is real. Now, again, I grew up in the church, I knew about God, I knew about the Bible, all that great stuff. But again, I didn't have my own personal, intimate relationship with him. And so for me, that was the start of me actually diving into my own personal, intimate relationship. Even when I was in college, I had the background of, going to church and everything, but it's college. I mean, who really goes to church in college? Let's just be honest, you know what I'm saying? So, after I graduated, I knew I didn't want to be in the street. So I had to find some way to keep myself motivated, to keep myself busy. So I just started praying to God and asking him just to show me certain things to do with, my degree, how to make ends meet, and just overall, just how to move through life in a godly and a successful way, and not having to necessarily beg to get to where I am today. So for me, I actually started to see my prayers work when I became the head coach at Christ the King Catholic High School. When I took over that program, We only had about 15 players, okay? And my prayer was, to end up with at least 30 to 40 young men. So I kept praying that prayer consistently for the first year. So we grew from 15 to 22, right? So I said, okay, that's a little bit of progress. We're making moves. So I'm continuing to pray. And even through those prayers, I actually shared, what was on my heart with other believers. And so we all prayed together. And, when the Bible says when two or more are together, the God is with us, right? So as we're praying, doors and stuff started to open up. And so we went from 22 now to the biggest team at that point in time ever, all the way up to 40 young men. And again, this is all happening in the matter of a year. And again, this is coming from young men who had never played the game before, who didn't have much experience, and overall, Black man at a white school. I'm not saying I ain't trying to make this about race, but that's just the facts.
That's the factor. Yeah.
And so, said I had to pray this thing. I had to pray this thing out. Saying I had to make them see me for me and not me for my skin color.
Mm-hmm.
And God allowed them to see my heart and not to see the actual skin that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's when I knew that prayer actually works. And so from then on out, I'm just praying it up, just praying it up, just praying it up. And even as I prayed for those young men to come out, I still saw how prayer worked, even when I prayed over my team. Just the confidence that it gave them, the calmness that it gave them, the reassurance that everything is going to be all right. Because as their leader, they had to follow my lead. If I'm shaky, unbalanced, and worried about everything, it was going to be the same for them. So I had to teach them, things are going to happen in life, but how we respond to it is what makes us who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So just teaching them, the values of prayer, the values of friendship, and just the values of, just coming together and, sharing those ideas. That to me, that was the biggest thing that helped propel my prayer life.
And how old are the kids that you coach?
They're high school kids, about 13 or 14 through 18 right now.
Wow. Now how and how great it is, because while you're older than them and you have that coach, you're coach, but they know that you're a young man. So for them to see you as a young man praying, oh my gosh, that right there, that is so significant in itself.
Wow.
And then, you know what I mean? That's amazing. And oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say then, when I took over, so I was no more than about 9-10 years older than them. So I'm I'm a fresh young man to them. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Right.
like, why we gotta listen to you? You just like my older brother, but God allowed them to see me for the man that I was instead of just this person who has a title.
Right.
And so they respected that.
Amen. Now, Ron Dean.
Well, it's funny. I've been in church all my life. I am up there in age. I'm seasoned, as you would say. And I've been in church all my life. And I really didn't, as a man, I've always said prayers, but I wasn't praying. I would say a prayer over certain situations or certain things. Lord, I thank you for keeping me this day, and Lord, I thank you for my mom and dad, or those prayers. But it wasn't really. I got married, and I was a musician and playing all over the place. Playing keys and singing and doing all that kind of stuff. Still wasn't praying. Still saying prayers. But it wasn't until my wife had her first miscarriage that catapulted me from prayers to praying. Because, the Bible does say the prayers of the righteous avail for much, but that's for others. But for me, I had to pray. I said, you know what, Lord, I need to develop a lifestyle of praying, not just saying prayers. So, from that point on, this is back, I want to say back in 2000. Let's say 2000. I think it was when she first had her first miscarriage. And, and I started praying. Now, of course, I'm praying specific now because I'm praying, Lord, help my wife, help us through this situation. but I really wasn't praying, Lord. I wasn't having a regular prayer life. It was just praying. And then as time went on and just praying, I realized that, my prayers and my praying is my communication to God. This is how we converse. This is how we talk. And it's funny, it's weird. I was always in music ministry, but like I said, we were saying prayers. But when I started to pray, have a prayer life, I saw the music ministry grow, and the fervor of of worship become even more intense. When I started having a prayer life, not just saying prayers, but praying, interceding, asking God to do things that I knew that I could not do on my own. Take us to a place of worship with you that I had never been before, and doing this on a regular, and then we had children. So then I have children. And then I said, you know what, I don't want to be the kind of dad that only pray on Thanksgiving and Christmas, at the dinner tables, that kind of thing. But I want them to see that, that we pray consistently, that I'm praying for them, and that it became now not just words, but it became a lifestyle, it became something that I live. And so that's how I developed a prayer life, not just saying prayers, but having a systematic time to pray. Typically when I wake up in the morning, my wife is gone and my girls are gone. Now this may ruffle some feathers, but I don't get on my knees. I don't get on my knees. I sit on the side of the bed and I look out the window, and for about, at least, I would say at least 45 minutes. And I'm having a conversation with God, not really asking him for anything, but thanking him for everything. Just looking out the window, that's my routine every morning. I mean, sometimes it's less than 45 minutes, but most of the time it's 30 to 45 minutes, just thanking him. And then being consistent with that, being consistent as a leader, as a man. So many men want leadership in their families or in their environment or at their jobs, but a leader has to lead. So I began to really pray, the Lord, help me to be what you want me to be, help me to be a light. So that's how I kind of developed a prayer life. It was, you would think that all these years in church, my mother was a minister, all this stuff, I wasn't praying, I was saying prayers. But it wasn't until I had that experience with my wife in 2000 that I really developed a prayer life.
And I get that. And I thank you so much for pointing out the difference between saying a prayer and being in prayer. You know what I mean? Because it is definitely a difference. Because, and I remember I heard this this pastor say a long time ago, like, you're wondering why you're not hearing from God, but you praying like you about to get ready to eat.
Right.
And when you think about it, those are some of the fastest prayers on the planet. Like, you have some people out there, I done been at some tables where grace was just grace. They just say grace and amen, and the eating commence. I have seen it. Okay. And so it's just like, okay, when you think about, and I'm glad, I love how you put it, Rondi, and how you was like, this is me talking to God. And when you think about that, you're talking to when you're in prayer, you are talking to the creator of the universe, the creator of you. And we downplay that so much. Do you think it's just, does that say something to our belief level, do you think? Or do you think that is because, why do you think that we downplay it like that? Let me ask you, Daniel.
I think it's a mix of our belief level and then also just, where we actually stand with God. A lot of people, some people believe that God is this, some people believe God is a woman, some people believe God is this. They just believe whatever they want to, right? And they don't really have a true foundation or principle about, how to approach God.
Yeah.
And in the Bible, Jesus gives us the outline of how we actually should approach God with the Lord's Prayer. And I think just, if more people actually just took some time out, to try to understand how to pray and what to pray for, I think a lot of us will have a little bit better prayer life versus just trying to pray when things happen, being reactive.
The
We need to be
reactive prayer.
we need to be praying proactively to prevent these things from happening. Now, we're still going to go through stuff in life, but God will still give us the wisdom to prepare for those things that happen before they even happen. Because again, we're talking to the Creator. That's a one-on-one conversation. That's probably the one conversation where it's a priceless conversation. You can't put a price tag on it. There is no price tag on that. And so the things that are said in between you and God, we got to hold on to those things. And a lot of people are looking for hope. They're looking for things in different places, but they're not turning to the person who can actually give them the true hope that they're looking for.
Wow. Wonderful.
And Ron, when you talk about, I don't get on my knees, I have to be, my knees get kind of achy. I'm not a on the knee prayer myself. I tell you that. I was glad when I found out your prayer posture is different ones, and they can all be acceptable. You know what I mean? I was good. I was so glad when I found that out. But I'm telling you, I was using cheat codes before I found out for sure. But can you kind of explain how you found out that sitting on the side of the bed was okay, and explain how that is acceptable to God?
It's funny you say that, because God bless my mother, God rest her heart. If I left it up to her, then the only way to pray was on your knees. That's the only way. Because he doesn't hear it if you're standing up. He doesn't hear it if you sit on the bed. He doesn't hear it if you're running. He doesn't hear it if you're jogging or whatever. He only hears it when you're on your knees. And how, I recognize that if I'm communicating, when we work every day, we sit on a chair and we communicate. Or in Daniel's, he's moving these kids from up and down the field. He's communicating. There's no one way that he's doing that. He doesn't just run one way all the time. Right. He may have to cross the field. He may have to stop. He may have to demonstrate, but he's still communicating. So once I recognize that my communication is not bound to one way of doing something, then I became liberated. I really became liberated. Let me tell you about my wife. Now, when she prays, because she prays every night, she don't get on her knees. She don't sit inside the bed. She goes in the closet and lays down. That's her prayer posture, and it's fine. And we all have a different posture. I mean, now she's going a little bit the old school way, but still,
that's deep roots right there. I like that.
She lays down on the closet floor. If you ever seen that movie called War Room? Yeah, that is. Every time I see the movie, I think of my head. I said, that is my wife right there. Except we don't have any sticky notes in my book. But that's her posture. So once we understand that God is not, we major in the minors. I don't mean to be too long, but we major in the minors as it relates to the posture of prayer. We sitting there thinking that you got to do it a certain way. You got to say a certain thing, or you got to say certain words, and we major in all of that. And all it is having a conversation with your Lord and Savior. And you know what? Sometimes, even when I'm sitting on the side of the bed, I don't say anything, because now a conversation is a two-way thing. Sometimes I need to sit back and listen to what he's saying to me, and then then respond, but most of the time, we've been kind of deceived in a sense to think that, your knees is the only way that. Now, I don't take away from the old traditions. where they got on their knees because they prayed us. We're here today because of them, and they got on their knees, and I don't discount that at all. But when you know better, you do better. So when you know different, you do different. And with the same effect, I get the same results doing it on the side of the bed, or you sitting in the chair, or Daniel up and down the field, whatever. We get the same effect. We get the same results by doing it the way that God has given it to us.
That's it. That's it. Now, I know that you, even Daniel in your age group and Rondine in your age group, like we all encounter people that want to know more about, they admire the fact that you have a prayer life, because when you have one, just like we can notice it, a difference in our lives from when we don't have one and when we do have one, other people can notice it too. They know when you have a relationship with God. And that's another reason why God is real, because the feeling that you have when you are in relationship with him is undeniable. For anybody who is around you, because I have people that tell me all the time, like, I know that when you talk to God, he listens.
Right,
and I tell people, like, if you talk to God, he'll listen to you too. But you have people that don't believe that. You know what I mean? So I'm curious to how you approach those situations. Daniel, you as a millennial, so you have friends who, the society wants us to believe that, young people are not interested in God at all, that they are not curious about, or not, they're not interested in wanting to have a deeper relationship with God. When we know, if nothing else from Rick Richardson's book, right? You Found Me, that's a myth. They are curious, they have a longing, and they have a desire. But sometimes it depends on the interactions they have with people who are in relationship with God. So can you tell me about a time where you had someone that didn't have a prayer life that admired yours, and how that interaction went with somebody that was a millennial?
Well, honestly, I haven't really had like a millennial actually ask me about my prayer life. It's just more so been, I guess, about the way that I carry myself in a sense. I could say at work. So like, for instance, there's this gentleman, his name is Mike. He started about 2 or 3 weeks after I started at my new job. And so we were trained up under the same trainer. And, we were just connecting and, just talking and everything. And we got to this conversation. We were just talking about life. I forgot what he asked me. But he asked me, about, getting to know people on the job and everything. And I just told him, I said, honestly, bro, just be genuinely you. I said, don't try to put on a front. Don't try to, do anything that's going to try to make you seem, better than somebody else. Allow people to see you for your heart. If you like helping people, then just keep doing that. If you like speaking to people, just keep doing that. And I think, and from that interaction, actually God confirmed some of the things that I told him in that conversation with other people in his life, by putting those same elements of what I told him and repeating it back to him from different people. So that let him know that, well, like, bro, God is really real, because like these people never had this conversation with me. And for me to actually speak into his life and, to edify him and to give him some wisdom, some nuggets, and for, his wife and his family to come back and repeat some of the same things that I said, it allowed him to see and understand that, well, maybe there is something different about this young man. What's so special about him that makes him stand out? Why am I so drawn to him? And again, the Lord calls us the light. And so for me, I try to let my light shine, what I'm saying? So it's in any way that I can, whether it's, by helping people, by just genuinely just speaking to people, and just being in their presence. But just that's how God has shown himself through me to other people, not necessarily through my prayer life. I think more so with my football players, they actually saw more with my prayer life, just as far as how they saw the season and everything changed. So for example, when I was at Christ the King, the team had never won a football game in their school history ever. There was 0. Okay. So when I took over, right. So when I took over, I didn't win any games my first year. Okay. Coming into my second year, had to get some wisdom nuggets, had to change some things up, had to talk to God and say, look, this is what I want to do. I want to be successful with, but I know I can't do it without your help. Now I know I believe I'm a pretty smart guy, but I know I'm not that smart. You know what I'm saying? So it was certain things that God started to download to me to help make more sense to these young men, to get them to elevate their game to the next level. And so as God was doing that, these young men started to see the fruits of their labor start to actually show. So the very first game the next season, we won our first game ever in school history. All right. Now, the blessings didn't stop there, though, right? So we won the first game in school history. Then we went on to have our first winning season, over 500 in school history. All right. Now, all this happened in my second year. They hadn't won a game. They hadn't done anything up until that. And again, these are young men who have never pretty much played the game before, very inexperienced. So for God to put me in this position, and again, I prayed, and I prayed to God. I said, look, if I ever get a head coaching spot, this is what I want to do. I want to build a football team. But the Lord has a funny way of working things out. Boop, here you go. All right. So God allowed me to build these young men up through prayer. And they actually got to see what prayer does when you actually put those things together. So they started winning 1 game, 2 games, first winning season. Then we make it to the playoffs. These things had never happened.
Wow.
So for them to actually experience that, and for me to being the young man and the head coach that I was, and me praying over them, it started to rub off on them a little bit. Their character started to change. Their personality started to change. We started having more leaders on the team. They started respecting their elders more. Even some of the parents came back and, just thanking me and my staff just for how we helped these young men become young men.
Right.
My quarterback, he was very shy when he first came to us. Now I can't get him to be quiet. But it's that confidence that he has with him because of how we help nurture him. And it wasn't just us. That's all God's handiwork.
Right.
I couldn't pour into him without God pouring into me. But I had to do that through prayer. And my prayers weren't just the same old, the Lord's Prayer after practice. No, I actually prayed for them. To make it home safely, to be better in life, to do things that they've never done before. And those guys actually took hold on to that. And so they started to draw more and more to me because of how they saw me carry myself through my prayer life.
And then, so the misconception is, Ron, that all older men, got it together. But I know you done had a situation where your light draws somebody onto you, and you were able to, share that with them. So let me know what that looked like for you.
Yeah, a lot of the men that are seasoned, should I say? I like the way you put that. The problem, I think, is that they think they know it all. They think they know. They've been president of the United States because they think they know it all. And you get to a place when you become seasoned that you stop praying because you feel as though I don't need to pray. I've prayed enough, and you can never pray enough. And when we need, as Daniel said so eloquently, that we are light. We need to be lights, and we need to be attractive. And there needs to be something about us as men, as seasoned men, to try to inspire a young man like Daniel. There needs to be something about us that's attractive, and not something that repels. So when I encounter guys in my peer group, I'm like, listen, you wonder why things are happening in your life that may not necessarily be the best. It's because you're not praying. You're not having conversation with God. You're having conversation with everybody else. As if we can handle, as we can change that, we can turn things around. And the person that you need to talk to that can turn things around in your life, you're not talking to. So, I attack it from a different perspective. I'm not gonna tell them you need to start praying. No, you need to start living right, because your lifestyle dictates your prayer life. If people can, you said it earlier when we came on, people can see if you pray or not. They can tell. They can tell. They can tell whether you live right. They can tell whether you're a family man or not a family man. Or they can tell whether you are upright or not. People can see right there, and that's always been a fear of mine. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've always been fearful that I don't want to ever live where Daniel can see. Okay, Ron Dean. Okay, yeah, all right. He got jokes. I don't want to live that kind of life. I want to be upright. I want to live right. I want to do the best I can. I want to treat people right. I want to, and there's all of this is a result of prayer life. You can't just, that doesn't just happen. You got to have some kind of prayer life for people to want to even talk to you, or even confide in you, that kind of thing. So in my peer group, I mean, most of the men that I inspire, it's sad that I got to inspire my own peer group, but the ones that I inspire are the ones
we all do,
which are the ones that really think they know it all. And when they meet me, I say, you know what? I'm a sinner saved by grace, just like you. It's just that I made a commitment to live right and to pray and to cover, and you have not. And I'm not saying that's why you're in your position or you're in your predicament, but it would help you to pray and live what you pray.
that part right there.
Live what you pray. I mean, if you see me on the street, at the church doing all this technical stuff and talking well, and we laughing, and then you see me on the street acting in a manner that doesn't represent what I say that I'm doing, you're like this. And the sad thing, the world we live in now, they won't even respond to you. They in their mind they go,
right,
and when you do try to have a conversation with them about prayer, they don't stop. I saw you last week, and your position wasn't that of a Christian. So I just try to live in front of these older guys or these seasoned guys, so I say, or my peers, that a life that they see that, hey, this guy prays. Am I a prayer fanatic? No, but I do pray, and I'm consistent, and that's what people want to see: consistency.
Yeah, because it takes real intention to have a prayer life.
It does.
Like it takes intention, and it's some people, like, I admire people that pray it's people that pray all day long.
Right. Right, we do.
And it takes real intention to do that. That's not easy.
Right.
So shout out to all of the all day prayers. I'm hoping I get there one day. But for those of us in prayer training, I think that it's good to know that if you start off with that 1 time, 2 times a day, in the morning, at night, that's a good solid prayer life. And you should be, that's pretty respectable. Right. And so now when you think about prayer, then it's good to have, an individual prayer life, right? But I want to speak now about the advantages of kingdom community. Because with it's a lot of churches that have men's groups. It's a lot of churches that have, just all kinds of auxiliaries and things like that men can join. But a lot of times they don't seem attractive to people that may desire to have a deeper relationship with God, but not sure how to do it. So could you guys speak to the advantages of, being involved in church or in groups where there's other men that pray? You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like kingdom community has really helped me in my own Christian walk. I didn't think, that I never would think that I would hang with as many church folks as I do nowadays. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I tried to avoid it, But God was just like, nope, this is where I want you. And next thing you know, it's singles ministries, media ministry, you know, all the, you know, a lot of ministries, you know, all, you know what I'm saying? MIT Bible Institute, next to your life group. And it's just like, wow, you know, it's a lot going, you know, how did I get all this kingdom community on my calendar? I don't know. But it was God. But at the end of the day, I at first I was apprehensive about it. You know what I mean? Like I was very quiet just to myself. But then as the benefits start being more and more undeniable in my life, I appreciated the kingdom community that God built around me, that He placed me in, and you know, to embrace me. And it really has helped me with my own Christian walk. So that's me as a woman. But I just wanted to hear you guys' perspective as men, because sometimes men just feel like hanging in church circles is just not the business. They would rather do something else. And, you know, or maybe the perception may be a little skewed on what that looks like as far as being in community with other praying men. So let's start with you, Daniel.
I think the biggest perception is probably like Brother Ron said, when a young man is around a group of older guys, it's a little bit of a fear involved. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't really know how to interact with them. One, because they're older,
Mm-hmm.
and then two, if this is your first time in that environment or that kingdom community, you really don't know what to say, or say how to act.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we put on this facade, we put on this mask, try to sit there like everything is all right, say amen maybe once or twice, and then we get up and go about our business. But a lot of times when we come into these places, most of the men that come in there actually need some type of help. Pretty much all of us need help. That's why we all go to church. It's a big hospital.
Right.
But for the young men that's trying to get more involved in trying to deepen their prayer life, it takes a level of transparency and vulnerability. You know what I'm saying? You got to be willing to share what's going on with you as a man. Now, again, as a young man, you may not want to share everything. Because again, everybody doesn't need to know your business, but you need to be able to find somebody that you feel like that you can trust and they have your best interest at heart. And that's where God comes into play. God knows our heart. God knows what we need. So if God knows our heart, He knows what we need. When we come to these kingdom community events, God is going to place the correct people around us to propel us and to push us past what we're going through, especially as young men, because a lot of stuff that we face as men, we hold that stuff inside. Because again, we're not emotional people.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got some men who cry all day, but most men, that's not us, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we have to break that chain of, holding these things in and try to put on this facade that I'm a tough guy. You know what I'm saying? Even Jesus cried, but Jesus hung out with gangsters too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you have to be able to mix the two, still be you and still have that manhood about you. But you have to be willing to allow God to work these things out in your life. You got to be willing to trust that He's placing the correct people in your life to help you and not to hurt you. And again, all this is part of God's promise, but it just takes that level of understanding, that level of maturity and transparency and vulnerability to actually go out into these groups and seek the help that you need. Because a lot of times we're trying to go get help, but it's coming from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And people are still people. Everybody has issues. So the man that you're talking to may not even be, he may still be having worse issues than you. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to tell you, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, you'll overcome it. Well, how does that work for you?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, tell me something that has worked for you. For me, I can tell you what prayer has done for me. I can show you what it's done for me.
Mm-hmm.
Every counselor may not be able to help you overcome some of the traumas that happen in your life. Some of the things that you may not feel comfortable talking about in front of a group of people, you can talk about that with 2 or 3 men that you trust and hold you accountable to the things that you say and how to go about overcoming those things. Because again, as men, we pretty much all struggle with similar things in a way. Even though we come from different backgrounds, we're still men.
Yeah. And I like the point that you made about, not every man is comfortable going the counseling route. Because I had a friend of mine that I grew up with that I was, suggesting that he, seek counseling. And he wasn't comfortable with it or even open to the idea at all. However, he was like open with engaging with other men in his church. Like he was just like, I go to, the counseling thing, that's not my thing, but I'm a part of the men's group. And he considered that to be his counseling. And at first I was just like, oh, okay. But I get it. Because the important thing is that you have somebody to open up to with the point that you are making. And what about you, Rondine? What is the advantage with the kingdom community for you?
Daniel spoke so great about that. When you meet people, every man, especially men, they don't always want to be preached to.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, we throw the Bible. You try to shove the Bible down their throat, and they don't need to be preached to. By and large, most men that are dealing with something just want to be heard. But as Daniel said, so eloquently, that they can trust you with something that's on their heart. Because a lot of times they'll test you. They'll tell you a few things, and then that's how men work. Let me try you out a little bit. I'll tell you a few things, and they want to see, are you going to be one of those blabbermouth kind of cats that's going to go around talking about everything? But then the next time, when they see you and you tell them, hey man, how's the situation working out? How's everything going? You okay? You need anything? Then they open up some more. And then once you get them open, then that's when you start to apply some word to it, some deep word. But a lot of times, first thing we want to do is go to the Bible and tell them how bad they are, and how they're destined for hell, and how they're doomed. They're already in a low place as it is, and here you come with all of this vocabulary that do nothing but causing them to I'm not going to that church. I'm not going to that men's group. I'm not going to be around those guys because all they want to do is throw the Bible at me. Sit back. And Daniel probably can speak to this. Sometimes in a men's group, don't even talk about the Bible. Talk about sports. Talk about something that's going to interest them. A pastor told me one time. He said, have you ever ate a fish in the sea? You got to catch the fish. You got to clean the fish. You got to cook the fish. Then you eat the fish. You don't do it the other way. You don't eat it before you clean it, catch it, and get it. You just don't.
That's shark behavior. That's shark behavior. That's shark behavior.
I mean, it's amazing, and some of that, and it's in my peer group and maybe older. That's they as soon as somebody come in, they want to slap oil on their head and tell them all the stuff that they going that how they're going to be doomed if they don't accept Jesus Christ. And they might say, well, they may say nah, and even if they say nah, then my peer group, not yours then, but my peer group, they get offended when you say no. I don't want Jesus right now. Now you're offended. What do you mean you don't want Jesus right now? Huh? You're going to hell. Instead of saying, okay, hey brother, I get you. In God's time, maybe you'll understand. But I'm here for you. I'm your brother. Blah blah blah. And they'll come back. And if you treat them, the Bible is so true. With loving kindness have I drawn all men unto myself. That's what Jesus said. With loving kindness, not with rules and regulations. With loving kindness,
judgment and condemnation.
And condemnation. Oh my goodness. So I just think in the kingdom community we have to the Bible says he that winneth souls is wise. And as a millennial like Daniel and as a seasoned guy like we gotta apply some wisdom. I don't care how much education you have. You're nothing without wisdom. So I'd rather keep a little bit of education I have and gain great wisdom than than to have all these different letters behind my name, because I want to be able to help somebody. If I can help somebody as I travel along, at that point, my living will not be in vain.
That's it. And so, I wanted to ask this because sometimes the perception when it comes to a prayer life and, you know, opening yourself up to relationship with God, sometimes the perception is that that means I can no longer be me. Daniel, I love how you said you can be who you are. Now, you were kind of talking about it in a little bit of a different context when you were telling your coworker you can be who you are as you move through these circles to find out, to get to know people on this job. But I feel like the same thing is true when you start gaining a closer relationship with God. Yeah, there'll be some things that evolve in you, but you get to still be you. You know what I mean? So if you could kind of speak to that perception and how having a relationship with God doesn't mean you have to change who you are. You know what I mean? Like can you kind of speak to that? Because I really want to stamp out that stigma that you have to turn into this Christian robot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to kill that just for a minute. So let's start with you, Daniel.
Well, being who you are is understanding who God called you to be. And I think that's the pretty much the foundation of understanding who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You got to understand who your creator is first and why he created you the way he created you. Because again, each and every one of us is unique in our own special way. No two people on this earth are alike, even identical twins. Everybody has something that makes them stand out. But a lot of times we try to find what makes us stand out through other people, through creation. We're not going to the creator, to the artist, to the person who designed us, to the designer, for the guys in the street, to the plug, to the boss. We're not going to the big man to find out, hey, why did you make me like this? Why am I wired to always ask questions? Why am I wired not to ask questions? Why am I wired to be shy? Why did you make me like this? And I believe that once we get this perception of that, once I give my life to Christ, I got to give up, saying the fun stuff. No. God still is a God of fun. God doesn't want us to be in this world just being robots. If that was the case, he would have done that from the jump. He would have took away the choice of free will and just made us say, hey, look, Marley, you go here. Rondine, you stay here. Daniel, go up there. And we would be doing it all day, every day. But we don't. Every day is something new for us. Even though we may go to the same job every day, there's still something new that happens on the job every day, whether we see it or not. And so being a Christian and being a young Christian and coming into this new Christianity, you got to take time to figure out who God called you to be. And that's the only way you're going to understand who you are as a person. Because if not, you're going to continue to go through life to find yourself. A lot of people say, I took some time to go find myself. Well, what did you find? Because if you're finding yourself and you still come back the same way, did you really find yourself, or you just had some time to think about yourself?
That part right there. Rondine.
Wow. That was deep, sir.
That was message. That's when you bust message.
That was good.
I like it.
As Daniel said, be who God has, who God has made you and designed you to be. Fred Hammond wrote his album one time was Purpose by Design. That was the title of his whole album. Every song had to do with being the purpose, being the person that God had called you to be. As Daniel was talking, it's funny, no 2 days are the same. Like you said, no, every day on the job is different. You know why? Because think about it. How many times have you gone to work and you walk inside your office or wherever you walk into? You have never walked in the same steps that you walked in the day before. your feet has never been in the same exact place that it was the day before. I mean, it just hasn't. Every single day, it's a different. You step differently.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then God has designed you, all of us, to be different. None of us are as Daniel said, are the same. Not even twins, identical twins. No, God has made us all a very unique species. He created us with us in mind. He didn't create us with. He didn't create Ron with Daniel in mind, or create Marley with another sister in mind. He created Marley with Marley in mind, Daniel with Daniel in mind, and Ron with Ron in mind, to develop me and Daniel and Marley to be what God has called us to be, and to do what God has called us to do. You know what? Daniel and I are sound engineers. There has not been a time that we move the faders the same exact way ever. Marley, you have not handed the microphone the same exact way to anybody ever.
Yeah, it always feel a little different. Yeah,
it's always different. And so if he can have us be the same person and have us that unique in our design, that's what we should be. And I shouldn't envy the calling that Daniel has. I should celebrate the calling that Daniel has. I should envy the calling that you have, Molly. I should celebrate that, because God has called me. The things that God has called me to do, the two of you cannot do. You just can't, because He's called me to do that. But the thing that He's called you to do, guess what? Newsflash, I can't do. So, we need to be able to understand that we are a unique design. I tell my daughters all the time, I said, they're both my daughters, but you are both an individual design. You have some attributes that I have and your mother has, and that's fine, because you have our bloodline, fine. But you're not the same. So it's being who you are. And being comfortable in the flesh that God has put you in. That's what I'm saying.
It's definitely something very special that happens when you connect to what God called you to do, opposed to what you think you're supposed to do or what somebody else is telling you to do. That's something, for those people that be like, well, because you get people to say, this is my life, I'm gonna live it like I want to. They don't like God's plan because they got their own plan. Well, I mean, you can pick your plan, or you can pick the plan of the creator. Like you guys are saying, you were created by God for a purpose. And it is some real power when you get in line with the real purpose for your being here.
That's right.
And it wasn't just to do what you want to do. And that's, I think, is a thing that men and women alike need to let go of. And I think we will all be better for it.
Wow.
Gentlemen, this has been a powerful conversation. It is definitely my prayer that men hear this and pursue relationship with God and just get in line with getting to know Him better. Because I know we put a lot of nuggets out there, and then we discussed a lot of different levels, but the fundamentals is what I'm hoping people will grasp today, which is take some time and talk to the Creator. You don't got to be on your knees. Guess what? You can sit on the side of the bed. You can lay down in the closet if you want to, right? Hey, you can run up and down the football field and do it however you do it. Talk to the Father, because something special happens when men pray. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you, Molly, for your platform. I told you this before, and I'm not telling you anything I haven't already told you. I thank you for your platform, because you are walking in purpose with this. Mm-hmm. This is helping not just this particular subject matter that we're talking about today, but the things you have here, people, are being helped by that level of conversation and our interaction, because you have so many different diverse types of subject matters. So continue to do what God has called you to do. And we can tell that there's much prayer and supplication behind this, because it doesn't seem like you're just throwing this together. This is strategic in all that's done. So God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much to my guests, Daniel and Ron, for joining the conversation and sharing your experiences on what it is to be a praying man and advantages of that. Hey, if this conversation spoke to you, please like it, please share it. Definitely don't forget to comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So for my men out there, whether you are not praying at all, whether you're praying just in words but leaving your heart out of it, my prayer is that this conversation inspires you to consider and really ultimately tap in to the power of prayer. Consider what it would do for not only you, your family, but our entire world if you learn to go to the Father in spirit and in truth. And on this walk with God, I know one thing for sure: loving God can be easy, trusting God can be hard, but I believe we can all get there one step at a time on this Christian walk. Until next time, be blessed.
Listen, homie, can you walk with me? Talk with me. What you know about God? Will He ride with me? Come and open my eyes for me. Hear my story. Show me more what's in store. And once more, listen, homie, can you walk? Can you walk? Let's walk.